All right, so am I the only one here, but have you been like editing videos for a while, and after a while you kind of just get bored doing the same effects over and over again? Well, that's exactly kind of what this video is all about. There's this one effect that I have been trying to do for the longest, and there have been a few different iterations of it. It first started off like this, and then it turned into something like this. But today I'm excited to finally take it into its final form, which is this. Check this out. Yeah, so I'm excited to actually make that the effect today. Now, my good friends over at Loupedeck decided that they wanted to sponsor another video, but not just talking about what the Loupedeck is, but more so exactly how I go about using it, which was actually a perfect time because recently Loupedeck just had a new plugin come out for it that really unlocks what you can do with it inside of Final Cut Pro 10. Actually, instead of me talking about it, let me just show you. So the plugin that we're talking about today is Command Post. Now what Command Post allows you to do is set pretty much any of these touch keys and turn knobs to be whatever you want that's inside of Final Cut Pro 10. So for example, here you can see on my page 2, I actually have some actual effects from within inside of Final Cut Pro 10. So for example, right here, this is the draw mask effect that I have. And the best part about this is instead of having to go through all of my effects and try to find it, I can easily assign it to one of these buttons. But let me stop rambling and let's jump into the effect. Now, the effect I'm gonna show you guys how to do today is actually this one. Now the secret to this effect, which is actually after this video, not so secret, is actually the hologram is not like some type of unique scan. It's actually just a camera rotating with a green screen plate behind it. And the benefit of having it rotate means that we get full 360 degrees of the actual camera. So for starters, I'm gonna start off by bringing our shot down into our timeline. So I'm just gonna do a quick selection and add that into our timeline here. And as I mentioned, with the Loupedeck, you have tons of options. So I'm actually gonna hop into my coloring tab here, and I'm gonna go ahead and start off by doing some light color grading on the overall image. Now for the sake of this effect, because we're gonna be turning the camera into a hologram anyway, we don't actually have to get our colors perfectly dialed in, but the benefit here is that we are just trying to get it to a place that's gonna make it easier for us to key out that green here in just a second. So now I'm gonna go into my mid-tone saturation. Go ahead and lift that up, go to my shadow, saturation. Now, as I mentioned before, with this new plugin, I have a lot of my effects already pre-programmed onto the Loupedeck itself. So you can hear, for example, I already have a keyer built in. So literally all I have to do is select my clip, tap keyer, and just like that, my keyer has already been applied to my shot. And that's one of the big benefits with the new plugin is that you can assign these different effects directly to the Loupedeck, saving yourself one additional step. So as you guys can see already, I have my camera, it's already been keyed out, which looks fantastic. But now I'm gonna go ahead and draw a mask so I can get rid of that bottle. So I'm gonna tap draw mask, and you can see that draw mask has been added to my clip, especially if I go here and look at my inspector. So you see that I have this here, and now I can go ahead and start creating some control points for my draw mask. And just like that, now we have a mask on our camera. And you can see there that everything falls within there. Now you might notice that down here towards the bottom, there is a little bit of remnant still from my keyer. So I can go into Final Cut and adjust that keyer a little bit more in order to get rid of some of those extra remnants that are showing up underneath. Now there are a couple things that you can do to go about getting rid of the actual little cap that you see sitting on the bottom of the clip. You can either go through and mask it a little bit more precisely, or you can actually go about shooting it a slightly different way. If I were to do this effect again, I would probably have it turning on something more of like a quarter thread, but for the sake of this, we're gonna go ahead and keep moving forward. And just like that, you can see now we actually have two effects that have been applied quickly just by using the Loupedeck, and we already have something that's looking pretty close to what we want when we're all said and done. All right, so now the next effect we're gonna throw onto our Sony here is an effect called line screen. Now this is actually something that's built into Final Cut Pro 10 already, and as again, I already have this programmed as a shortcut. So I'm gonna do that, and you can instantly see that these lines have already been applied to the Sony a7 IV here. Now personally, when it comes to the lines here, I like to actually go ahead and squeeze those lines in. As you kind of drag this back and forth, you can see that it actually just allows us to have a few more lines in frame. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and raise that to about a 0.4, 0.42 looks good. I'm also gonna go ahead and drop the opacity on these lines just a little bit here. And so what that's doing is that's actually not only dropping the opacity of the lines, but it's actually dropping sort of the saturation on the camera itself, which is one of the reasons why I was saying you don't have to get the color grade perfectly on the camera, because it won't matter here in just a little bit. Another thing you might want to do is go about changing your angle of rotation on those lines, and so you can see as they move sort of the effect that it gives. And that's actually something that I'm gonna adjust a little bit more towards the end. That's one thing that I personally like to do, is to set one angle on the rotation of the lines and then set a keyframe, move further into the shot, and then adjust that. So not only is it gonna kind of like this flickering effect, but the lines are actually moving, which sort of helps sell that holographic look. So I'll go here, click on my keyframe, and then I'm gonna drag a little bit further into the shot, and then I'll adjust that angle a little bit more, and then I'll drag to the end and sort of adjust the rest of the way. And so if we allow this time to render and play back, you'll get something that looks like this. So that looks good already, but let's go ahead and put some of the final touches on it in order to really help sell that effect. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this entire thing blue. So to turn the entire thing blue, we're really gonna just use this using our color wheels, which we can control 100% from the Loupedeck itself. So we're gonna add our color wheels on here, and now we're actually gonna go about adjusting our colors itself. Now, the biggest thing to remember is that when you are adding this new color wheel effect here on the Loupedeck, is just make sure that it's at the bottom of your overall effects. If by chance you accidentally put that color wheel up here at the top next to the original one we used to actually color grade our shot, it will affect the actual green that it is using to key. So just make sure that the color wheel effect is all the way here at the bottom. From there, we can go inside and we can use our Loupedeck to basically control everything. So first, I'm gonna go ahead and adjust it and turn it blue. And then I'm actually gonna go ahead and turn up my global saturation. And you can see already that this A7 IV is looking very blue, looking very holographic. And so for the most part, we have our holographic shot here. And you can see as I play back just that quickly, we have a holographic A7 IV turning in space with no background, which means you can literally put this in front of anything and sort of give it that holographic look. Now, the one that I used did have one extra little touch, which personally I do think helps out a lot. There are two ways you can actually go about doing this. One way is free and one way costs a little bit extra. Now, built into Final Cut is a glow effect. And so you can easily assign one of your pre-mappable buttons to that glow effect in order to actually pull off the shot. But I found this YouTuber by the name of Ryan who actually sells his own presets, which a lot of them are fairly well priced. And the one that we're looking at today is only $9, and it sort of takes the glow effect and sort of enhances it a little bit more. But I'll show you how to do it with the glow effect, and then I'll show you how to do it with the glint effect, which is what he calls it. So with the glow effect on here, you can see how as I turn that up and down, how that just sort of enhances it. One thing that I struggle with the glow effect is that I do notice that as I increase the brightness, it sort of washes out some of the color, but it does give a nice little glow to our highlights in the shot overall. Now when you compare that to the glint effect, the glint effect is going to give you way more creative control over your parameters. Another big reason why I like the glint effect is because it sort of just gives us this sort of haloing look that's coming off of the camera. As I turn this on and off, you can kind of see how this sort of affects it and kind of really gives us that holographic look that personally I think just really helps sell the entire effect as a whole. So now this hologram effect will probably be popping up in a lot more of my videos. But thank you guys so much for checking out this one. If you have any additional questions about how I pulled this off, also if you want links to check out the Loupedeck yourself, or even some of the plugins that I used in this video, those will be all down below in the description. But thanks so much for checking out this one. It's a pretty cool effect, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.